Welcome and thank you for joining Southern California Business Report on ABC News and Talks, KMET 1490 AM, 98.1 FM, and KMET TV. I'm Yvette Walker, live blasting our signal from the center of Southern California, serving a population of over 25 million. Get us crystal clear and on demand by downloading the free live streaming app on Google Play and the Apple App Store. As always, a huge shout out to the team, Mitch, Bill, and Sean. I love you. And to our special advisory committee that can be found at www.scbrtalk.com/advisory committee. Visit and learn all about these incredible leaders doing the work. Okay, everybody, I have the distinct privilege to introduce today businessman, lawyer, and philanthropist Greg Haff, who was born and raised in the San Gabriel Valley and cares deeply about the community that has given him so much over the years. He attended high school at Western Christian in West Covina and went on to earn dual degrees in political science and business from the University of La Verne. Following college, he earned his law degree from Pepperdine Law School. Greg has been an attorney for more than 3 decades. He is renowned for passionately representing severely injured individuals and advocating for the rights of small businesses. His commitment to seeking justice and fair compensation has earned him a stellar reputation within the legal community. Mr. Haff is the managing attorney for the law offices of Herbert Hafif in Claremont, California, one of the most successful and nationally recognized trial law firms in the United States. He is one of California's leading civil trial lawyers and has produced numerous multi-million-dollar verdicts, including the 10th largest verdict in the state of California in 1995, an antitrust matter in Victorville, California. That same year, his father, Herbert Hafif, produced the 4th largest verdict in the state of California. Numerous publications throughout California have featured Gregory Haff's accomplishments, including California Lawyer, the Los Angeles Times, and the Los Angeles Daily Journal. Mr. Haff is a frequent lecturer to various legal associations on trial strategies and techniques. He's also a member of the Consumer Attorneys of California and Consumer Attorneys Association of Los Angeles. Thank you so much for being with us, Mr. Haff.
Thank you for having me.
Terrific. So as you know, my first question to every one of my guests is to please talk about what inspired you to pursue a career in law.
Yeah, well, that one goes back a long way considering my age, but it would have to be my father. He was a trial lawyer. He was actually considered probably the godfather of trial lawyers. Way back when there was only probably about 5,000 actually doing trial work. Watching him, following him, listening to him. Actually, when I was in high school and college, I started working for the law firm. We worked on a particular case actually in West Covina, where I went to high school for 2 years. It was the BKK dump where we represented about 500 landowners around this dump that was emitting toxic fumes, and it was my job at the time to go around and listen to the stories and record the stories of everyone for the case and the fears that they would have, with their mortgages, their family, their health, the elderly people that were there. And it really kind of touched me that we were actually doing something now that I could really see firsthand that we were helping people in this regard. So I decided that I was going to go to law school, and I was going to see if I enjoyed law school. And if I did enjoy law school, I was going to continue on with it. And I really did. I went, as you said, Pepperdine Law School, and just really enjoyed my time down there. I love the academics of it. I love the people of it. And that's kind of when I decided that I was going to pursue the same thing that my father was doing.
Terrific. Please talk about the area of law that you cover and how that's different from what most people would assume a lawyer does.
Well, there's only a few percentage of us out there that actually do what I do, and that is I'm a trial lawyer. My father was a trial lawyer. I grew up in a trial lawyer family. And so I'm the person that actually goes into the courtroom and argues your case in front of the judge. And particularly my specialty is in front of a jury. My father was I always call him the master of smooth moves and persuasion. He was a great storyteller and everything. And I grew up in that environment where I got a lot of those mannerisms and things of that nature. And I just loved to help people and hear their story. And I knew I just didn't want to sit behind a desk drafting wills or contracts or doing estate planning or acquisitions and mergers and things where you're just behind a desk and being bored. I wanted to be out there in the field and helping people in that way and performing sort of an art form in the courtroom. So that's why I chose that path.
So please share how your father's legacy steered your vision for your chosen career in law. I mean, growing up in a household of, of a lawyer such as your father, so recognized, please share the impact that it had on you.
Yeah, so a lot of people will say it's going to be a hard time, following in your father's footsteps. I mean, he had more million-dollar verdicts than anybody at the history of the United States at the time. He was huge. He was a legend, if you will, in the field. And this was before social media and things of that nature. And lawyers didn't advertise. You didn't see him on billboards or anything. You just knew who the guy was. But he raised me in such a way that I didn't feel that competition, that I had to feel that I just needed to be myself. And so watching what he was doing and the people that he was helping, always representing the little guy against the big guy, it was David against Goliath. I just loved that role. And so with his tutelage, if you will, I started practicing law in 1990. I came right into his office at that time. So I was not only able to get the instruction before then, but I had a good 10 years of instruction with him in the firm, us trying cases together. And it was amazing because we were in sync. I mean, we could actually finish each other's sentences and things. So it was really beneficial.
Well, please take us back to some of your earlier years and some of the cases you pursued.
Well, the first case that I pursued was with my father right out of law school. It was a wrongful termination case against Lockheed, where these three individuals had blown the whistle on the C-5, saying that, which was a cargo plane for the military, saying that there was eutectic melting occurring and that these planes were actually dangerous, and they got fired for it. And it has some relevance today when you think about Boeing and the bolts not going into the panels. This is the exact kind of thing that we were doing. We got a $45 million verdict for those individuals, which was always trying to help protect workers in that regard, which was one of the things, my passions that I do. The other thing was protecting, people that have been injured, severely injured, catastrophically injured, and a lot of product defect cases, roof crushes, and representing quadriplegics and paraplegics, and really understanding the struggles that they go through in everyday life that we just can't comprehend what goes on, how it affects the family, not just the individual, how everyone's involved, and to be able to help in those regards. Yeah, it's just fulfilling. So those are some of the things. I mean, I do a lot of consumer cases where consumers are getting ripped off, price gouged. Love doing that kind of stuff, taking down the big corporate giants for cheating us little guys, taking advantage of the vulnerable all the time.
Right. It's always about those loopholes, right? So are those the same practice areas that you pursue today? Please share some of the core practice areas of the law firm.
Yeah, so what we do now is we do a lot of class action work. We do consumer protection work where consumers are being falsely advertised to, sold products that don't really meet up to what has been represented in that regard. We represent a lot of seniors because they're really, in a lot of senses, the most vulnerable sometimes in their lives. So we represent a lot of seniors with insurance fraud, selling them life insurances, whole life insurance policies that are projected to take care of them for life, only to find out that in their hour of need, their premium is in default, even though it's been promised it would be paid for. based on the investment return of doing it, from years early. Or so I love doing those kind of cases because it's helping the vulnerable in that regard. And of course, I still do catastrophic injury cases, and I do a lot of workers' rights stuff where, corporations are taking advantage of our workers every day, taking advantage of them, having them work overtime without pay, off the clock without pay, not paying them fair wage. And so we do a lot of that stuff, especially here in the community.
Wow. Please talk about the impact the matters you cover have on our communities, right? Because you talk about consumer fraud. Can you give us an example of a case that you can share that speaks to that?
Well, it's a specific one in that regard, which maybe most people realized. If you walked into a Marshalls at one time, or a TJ Maxx, or something of that nature, it would say you would go to the tag and you would see something that says compare at price. And it made you believe that you were getting a great deal because it would say compare at 49.99 and we're only selling it for 14.99. And the reality is there was no comparing it. That was just fictitious. It was just made up. So you thought you were getting a good deal. You bought one, maybe you even bought two now based on that false advertising. So you can walk in there now and you won't see those tags anymore. That's because of what my law firm did. We do a lot of consumer protection as well in regards to privacy. You will find now that you will not, if you go use your credit card, it used to print out the full credit card number with your zip code and full name, and you'd throw that in the trash, and identity thieves would take it
Mm.
and steal your identity. Well, we changed federal law in that regard. Now you can't do it. Look at your credit card receipt. That's me.
Okay, so you protected us. You gave us a little more anonymity, right?
That's my job. That's what I want to do.
Perfect. So earlier in the conversation, you managed that you said you're a litigator. And I understand that only 1 to 2% of lawyers become litigators and actually get to see the inside of a courtroom, interface with a judge and a jury. Please talk about why that is.
Well, it's kind of a niche field. In that regard, and it's a unique talent, I think, if you will. You either have it or you don't. Perfect example is some people enjoy public speaking and some people don't. If you want to be in the courtroom, you better enjoy public speaking. So there's not many of us that are in it. And honestly, I can say that those that are in it, the 1 or 2% in it, there's probably a very small percentage that are actually any good at it. They pretend to be in it. They say they're in it. But then you ask them, how many cases have you actually tried in front of a jury? They'll tell you either 0 or 1. I've tried 75 jury trials, over 100 trials, even hundreds of arbitrations. It's what I love to do. I love to be in the courtroom and telling somebody's story, and trying to help them in that meaningful way. I just enjoy it. If I couldn't get into the courtroom, I would probably find another talent to help the community. But this one just happened to fit the bill for me.
Right, because you mentioned that for the most part, attorneys tend to focus on more transactional matters. Can you expand on that? Is it more transactional, a more administrative or policy making? What does
Yeah,
the majority look like?
Yeah, there's all kinds of different things. You could be a corporate lawyer and sit in a corporation and help them with their HR and drafting contracts and things of that nature that fills the vast majority. You have people that are in mergers and acquisitions. You have people that are drafting contracts for various businesses. You have people doing wills and trusts or real estate law. All those kind of things that never see a courtroom. It's only when they screw it up, then it comes to
Mm.
me and I bring it in the courtroom. But before that, it's mostly sitting at a desk and doing boring work. And I would pull my hair out if I
Yeah.
had to do that. So, and you have to have that talent. You have to want to go into the courtroom. Like I say, you're either a public speaker or you're not. You have to want to go in. And there's not a lot of us that like to do that. So,
Right. I mean, like you said, it's definitely a talent, right? And you have to be persuasive and you have to be engaging and you have to make your client and your witnesses feel comfortable, especially when they're on the witness stand.
Yeah, I always say, public speaking is one thing. I'm talking to my audience, but when I'm in a courtroom, I have to know what's going on with everybody. I have to know what defense counsel, what face gestures he's making when he's moving for an exhibit book or something of that nature. I have to keep my eye on the judge to make sure he's not going to limit me in something. I'm also talking to my witness and I'm paying attention to 12 jurors that's sitting over there in the corner all at the same time. In order to be an effective lawyer, you need to be able to, trial lawyer, you really need to read the room in that regard. And that takes a lot of experience, but you also have to sort of have it innately in you. And at the same time, you have to know, in a sense, how to persuade people and how to be a good storyteller, because that's really what you're doing. You're almost the director of a movie and the editor at the same time. So you are scripting it in a sense. You have the facts that are given to you, but now you have to present it in a way to a jury that they fully understand it because they want to be somewhere else and can persuade them and move them to feel for your client and give you the justice that you think the case deserves.
Right. So it sounds like an extremely multi-sensory experience, right, from your standpoint, when you're taking in all of this information simultaneously as you're conducting, the presentation and presenting the evidence to support your case and your position.
Yep, and you get that when when you're well prepared, that you know everything about your case, the good and the bad, so you could predict what's going to happen.
Right. And so I imagine you have to invest a lot of time knowing these matters inside and out, like you said, knowing the good, the bad, the ugly, and being able to anticipate that and, still steering the message home in favor of your client.
Yep, you got to know the rules of the court, rules of evidence, how I'm going to get this in, that in, how I can trick this guy into bringing something up, so then I can bring in something to trump him over here. Your mind never stops, and anybody that practices law in the courtroom as a litigator knows that you sleep and you're cross-examining people while you're asleep. It's an all day, all night experience when you're in trial, which, of course, what I love.
I love it. So I also understand that you're involved with philanthropic efforts with the Half Foundation. Please talk about what some of those efforts look like, the efforts that you champion in the community.
Yeah, so my father started the Half Foundation probably 30 some years ago. He was dedicated to give away half of his legal income to the foundation. We're a self-funded, family-funded organization. My father passed away 4.5 years ago. I've been
Right.
president of it for 15 years, and we focus mostly on higher education scholarships for those children that just need that extra little boost to get into college and pay their way. And then we also focus on healthcare, especially medical clinics, making setting up funding medical clinics in the community in underserved areas with affordable and accessible and mostly important quality healthcare in that regard. And so those are our two primary focuses for the foundation.
Lovely. And so, what are your primary sources of funding? Do you do fundraising? Is it privately funded? What does it look like?
So we are privately funded with just our money. And we've done that maybe for a few $1,000s here or there, but the millions of dollars that we've put in is all because as a result of the family putting our funds in there, and then we give back. And one of the things that we did as well is we realized that there was a need for smaller charities to be able to raise money, and they needed to have a vehicle upon which to do it. So up in our home in La Verne, my father built a concert garden, if you will, fits 1,500 to 2,000 people. And what we would do is we would give tickets to the local charities, the smaller local charities, give them free. They would sell the tickets, keep every dollar for themselves, and then those people would come to the concerts that our foundation would fully pay for. And we would do 3 to 5 of those a year and raise millions of dollars for local charities that way. And then unfortunately, COVID hit, so we had to stop that for a little bit. So that's one of the other things that we do in that regard, because a lot of smaller charities just don't have the opportunity to go out and raise money the way they should.
Wow, that sounds like a great opportunity to raise funds for the smaller, nonprofits, as you mentioned. Having the venue, paying for the talent, funding the concert, and just saying everything you keep goes directly into your pockets.
Yep. Yeah.
That's
And we've
wonderful.
had some great talent too. Some great talent up there.
Please expand. Share what concerts or
So
what presentations have you been able to
it's
share?
kind of a unique experience, but we had a number of famous comedians. But the one that I love the most is a guy named Harmonica Slim, and my dad read about him in the LA Times, and it was this gentleman that was living in his car in the back of the McDonald's because or Burger King because he was homeless. And at that time, one of the directors of our foundation, was named Bernice Simon, one of my best friends, and my dad said to him, "I want you to go down and find this guy. Apparently, he's a great harmonica player. I want you to find him and bring him out here. He's going to play at the concert." Well, what? Well, we did. We found him. We brought him. He came. I'm telling you, he brought down the house. We had our band that was playing, and one of the band that was in there was a harmonica player. And all of a sudden, it was dueling harmonicas that were going on. And this guy was living in the back alley of his car and Burger King. But the community loved it because it was just a real life story of what we were doing. And so his name was Harmonica Slim, and so we got to help him out and at the same time and get him sort of back on his feet and what have you. But that was really fun to watch. That was just one of them.
Oh my goodness, that sounds great. I hope he wasn't living in the back of a Burger King after that. And I'm sure that assisted to raise his profile as well and hopefully get some more gigs afterwards.
It did a little bit. It did a little bit. That's for sure.
That's
Uh,
amazing. So, Mr. Haff, can you share some full circle examples of a beneficiary or someone that has experienced and had the support of your foundation?
Yeah, I'll just give you a couple names. For instance, I'll leave their last names out for them. But for instance, our landscaper, she's just a beautiful daughter that was going to be the first to go to college, but didn't quite have the money to get there. So we were able to kickstart her career into college. She was one of our recipients that got an award, and this was sort of based on my dad's story years ago, where when he graduated high school, he wanted to go into the army so he could get the GI Bill, but they canceled it. So he didn't have the money to go to school. He received $1,000 scholarship to go to Chaffey College. He could not have gone to Chaffey College if he didn't have that $1,000.
Wow.
He went from there, got a scholarship to Pomona College, and then a scholarship to USC Law School. He came back. He became a legend in the trial field. He ran for governor in '74. He ran Jimmy Carter's campaign. And one of the things that he wanted to do was to give back in that way. So we've given thousands of scholarships in that regard to kickstart people there. And now she's thriving and amazing. Another gentleman is Anthony. He University of La Verne had just started their PA school, physician's assistant school, and he wanted to give back to the community. So we paid for his scholarship to become a physician's assistant. And now, based on his promise and everything, and we see him. In fact, I'll be out there Thursday with him in the field. He works for Healthcare in Action, which is a mobile medical unit that goes around and treats homeless people all throughout our community. He's giving back, so paying it forward. So those are two people, and that's the inspirational stories. You're helping people that are now going to go out and help others as well.
Right, you're planting seeds to bear more remarkable fruit for our communities. I love it.
Yeah.
Please talk a little bit about how I understand the HAF Foundation is privately funded, but how can the community support the HAF Foundation or reach out to learn more about grant or scholarship opportunities?
So the best way to do it, honestly, is to just go. You can Google Half Foundation, and that's Hafif. Don't ask me. My dad died. Dad's died when he was 6. Never explained why we mispronounced it half instead of Hafif. But if you go to the Half Foundation, Google it, or halffoundation.org, you can see the contact button on there, and you can give us a call, or send us an email telling us about what project you're working on, what help that you need in that regard, and someone will always get back to you.
I love it. So, can you give us a brief overview of the types of organizations that you support and encourage to reach out to you?
One of the ones that I support because that it's sort of a dear in my heart, is all started with Casa Colina Foundation because they're a physical rehabilitation facility for those that have had spinal cord injuries or brain injuries. So one of my best friends and his son, which was like my family, was 18 years old, traveling, bringing a payload up to Las Vegas when his truck overturned, and the roof collapsed. And as a result, he became a quadriplegic, which means he doesn't have any movement, hardly of his arms, and certainly none of his legs. That family was doing well in business. They weren't millionaires by any stretch, but they were doing well. But during the rehabilitation process at Casa Colina, they started to realize all those people that were so unfortunate in there with them, rehabbing with him, that didn't even have the funds to get a wheelchair when they came out of the hospital. So they started the Be Perfect Foundation, and that was dedicated to solely helping those with spinal cord injuries. It's now expanded into helping those with brain injuries. They have a campus here in the community that treats probably 150 patients now, and they come down to their facility for rehabilitation, stuff that's not covered by insurance. Um, and it's also has mental health program that goes with it to help them adapt. They become a community, they develop new friends, and it's one of the things I love is going down there and just talking to people and seeing, um, just the progress that they've made and the lives that they've changed. It's amazing. They've turned a tragedy into something good. And of course, that's one of the things that I personally, as well as the foundation, support.
Wonderful. Okay, Mr. Haff, we are coming up on a break. All right, everybody listening, I'm Yvette Walker with ABC News and Talk Southern California Business Report here today with Mr. Greg Haff, managing partner of the law offices of Herbert Haff in Claremont, California, one of the most successful and nationally recognized trial law firms in the United States. He is one of California's leading civil trial lawyers and has produced numerous multi-million-dollar verdicts, including the 10th largest verdict in the state of California in 1995, an antitrust matter in Victorville, California. When we return. Welcome back, everyone. Yvette Walker with ABC News and Talk Southern California Business Report here today with Mr. Greg Haff, managing partner for the law offices of Herbert Haff in Claremont, California, one of the most successful and nationally recognized trial law firms in the United States. He is one of California's leading civil trial lawyers and has produced numerous multi-million-dollar verdicts, including the 10th largest verdict in the state of California in 1995, an antitrust matter in Victorville, California. Thank you again for being with us today, Mr. Haff.
Thank you.
Beautiful. So prior to the break, you gave us a brief overview of your role at the law firm and the difference between, a standard attorney versus a litigator, such as yourself, which accounts for only 1% to 2% of all lawyers, as well as an introduction to the Half Foundation. I also understand that you took a year off of school between high school and college, which, as we all know, is very dangerous, right? Because a very small percentage of students go back to pursue their education. Please share why it was you did that.
So back in the 1980s, when I graduated in 1982 from high school, we had something that was called the savings and loan crisis. So your younger audience may not know it, but it was very relevant in regards to the current Great Recession that we had in 2007 to 2009.
Mhm.
But this was with savings and loan banks. And My family owned 5 apartment complexes, about 1,000 units down in Texas, some by A&M and some by UT. So as a result of the savings and loan crisis, our apartments and some thievery, our apartments were 50% full at the time. And so my dad didn't have anybody else to trust, being so far away, us living here in California and there. So the minute I got out of high school, he said, "You're going to Texas. You're going to be my eyes and ears on the ground. You're going to run these places, and you can talk to me every night, and I'm going to tell you what to do." Um, so I said, "I got plans. I'm going to go play basketball in college." And he says, "Not now. You're not. You're going to take a year off."
Wow.
So that's what I did. I went down to, drove across the Panhandle into Texas, and ran 5 apartment units, had 50 employees working for me when I was 18 years old at that time.
Talk about, just the training by fire, right? Just you just were dropped in and had to figure it out. What would you say was maybe the most challenging part of that experience?
Well, being around my dad, who was a businessman as well, and having him available for consult all the time really helped, obviously. I was 18, but I was really like 35 in, mind years, if you will. I had a good rapport with people, and I kind of knew what needed to be done. It was going to be all business, although turned out to be a lot of play as well, with no homework down there. College atmosphere was kind of fun. But yeah, just dealing with the different personalities of running a crew, from your management to your rentals to your advertising to your repairs and maintenance to your roofers to everyone that you're dealing with, and then of course the clientele that comes into your office all the time. It's really business by fire. I mean, you get all your college education slammed at you all at once, in that regard. And one of the things that I did down there is, I knew football was next to God down there in Texas, as you can imagine. And so, as an 18-year-old kid, I walked into the head coach's office at 18. His name was Jackie Sherrill. And I told him, "I have a proposition for you." And he kind of looked at me like, "Okay, who are you, kid?" I mean, how I got in there, I still don't remember today. But I said, "I want to house your football players in the off season, and I'll give them a discount." And I knew if I had football players in there, everyone else would come. And I didn't hear from him for a couple months, and then I did. And before I knew it, I was housing the football team, the basketball team, the baseball team, and everybody else came. So it was a good marketing ploy at the time.
Oh my goodness, that is remarkable. That's a great marketing ploy, right? If you pitch it, they will come, especially the teams. Please expand on some of your early entrepreneurial efforts in addition to this initial experience during your year off before you went off to college.
Well, my first business that I got into actually was an arcade. People play it all online right now, but before then, you had to put your quarters in a machine, and do that. Took a loan from the bank, and $50,000. Had an arcade machine that did, a room that did very, very well until I left and came back to school. And then suddenly it wasn't doing so well, which is a good lesson to learn. Be next to your business, not away from it. I moved into that, and when I was in college, I actually started, just out of college, I actually started a travel agency. And that was back in the old days when the airlines would give you the plates, and you would, like a credit card machine, you would hand people their tickets that way. Technology moved in, and Expedia took over at the time and kind of forced you out of that business in there. And then since then, I've just, obviously, I run a law office. I run a real estate development company that's mostly out of Missouri, and own a FDIC insured banking institution now. So balancing all that at the same time.
It's interesting. How many of you are there, right? Because if you're doing all of that, tell us, what does a managing partner of a law firm look like? What is your
Daily
role?
routine.
Yeah, what is your daily routine?
Well, back in the old day, I had 12 lawyers working for me, probably 25 different, 30 different employees, and it was managing cases. we probably had 600 cases in our office, different types of cases, and each lawyer was assigned 30 to 60 cases. And then I had to not only manage my caseload, but make sure they're managing theirs as well as do the administrative part of it in that regard. Now I don't have that many lawyers. I'm paring it down for other things that I'm trying to pursue at this time. Um, and so it's not as difficult as it was back then. But in regards to the bank, I have good people that are down there. Good people that have been with me for years and years and years. One of the things that I'm really proud of is that people in my law office had been here for 20 to 30 years with me. People in my bank, my president of my bank now, who is a Latino woman, she started out as a bank teller in our bank when we purchased it back in 1995, and now she's the president of the bank. My CFO is a woman as well, and my third in charge is a woman, a Latino woman. My dad always he started some of the first women's rights groups at the time, so proud of that, and they do a great job. Having great help and is makes my job a lot easier.
Oh, I love it. And I love the composition of your C-suite staff. That is remarkable. Where can we find your banks?
So our main branch is in East Lake, Chula Vista, but then we also have a branch out in La Quinta. We have one right here in Claremont, and we have one in Fresno,
What's the name of your bank?
Balboa Thrift and Loan Association.
Oh, wonderful. We're gonna have to check that out. So
Yeah.
please share how your early business experience formed your current business philosophy.
Well, I sort of fell into business because I had that opportunity. It's not as easy for everybody, but I kind of fell into it. And it was either are you going to work for somebody else or you're going to work for yourself
Mhm.
in that regard. I do find that when you do work for yourself, you probably are working more hours and more time than you do when you're working for somebody else.
Yeah.
You take your headaches home with you and your problems home with you to try to solve. You don't just get to leave the office or
Right.
something. Everything moves with you. But I'm the kind of person that needs to be doing something. And what I really love to do is something for others. That gives me great satisfaction. I'm the kind of person that I don't want anything for Christmas. I
Mhm.
just don't. I don't need anything. I don't want anything, but I love to give people something for Christmas. I love to see the look on their face. I hope I did it right, this, that, the next. Same in business. I think if you really want to help people, and whether you have a product or a service, and that's your mentality, and you really believe in it, you're going to be successful in that regard in what business you get into.
Absolutely. Please talk about where your practice is situated today and how that has influenced your efforts in the community.
So our practice is here in Claremont, California, which is about 35 miles east of Los Angeles. We're out here in Claremont, where we have actually 7 colleges in our community. They call it the land of trees and PhDs. There's more PhDs and trees in this community than per capita than anywhere else. And this is where my dad founded the business. We've owned the building here since the 1950s when there were orange groves all around us. And so this is where it stayed, even though we practice everywhere in Southern California and Northern California. And of course, I've done a lot of national work as well. This is our community, and I've lived here my whole life. Tell everybody that the San Gabriel Valley is where I was born and raised. It's the people that I've been helping my whole life. It's the people that have given me everything to help me succeed in my life. And I'm not going anywhere. And I'll keep fighting for this community no matter what job I'm in.
I love it. So please talk about some of the main observations you have made in your time as a litigator.
Things have changed in regards to the way law is practiced a little bit. Sometimes in the laws that have that come onto the books. For instance, And the ways that things have practiced is, you used to go to the courtroom all the time for your silly little status conferences and case management conferences where a judge would tell you, okay, where are you at? Well, we're almost done with discovery. Okay, come back in 90 days. I mean, literally, you were in and out of the court like that, and you would sit there for 2 hours for your case to get called.
Mm.
Now you do it by Zoom. Now you do it by phone. And, you just really need to show up into the courtroom now to try your case. So it's changed that way a little bit, especially with now taking depositions by Zoom. You don't have to travel to West LA for 3 hours, this, that, the next. But the laws change too. And when the laws change, you need to learn how to adapt to it, and whether that's good or bad in that regard. I know that my dad back in the old days, he's the one that invented insurance bad faith and Egan versus Mutual of Omaha. I mean, your insurance company used to screw you over all the time, and there was no penalty for it. They just,
Mm.
okay, I have to pay the policy now after 5 years of litigation. Okay, no. Now you can get punitive damages against them if they deny your claim in bad faith, and that was something that my dad started back in the '70s. And so you can really do a lot in law to help out in areas, and it's always changing and evolving in that regard.
It must feel great to really make a positive impact in the community and, have a hand in adjusting those laws, updating those laws to protect consumers.
It is. It is. I mean, one of the frustrating things about practicing law is it takes a long time and a lot of effort to get your results. So maybe on a daily basis, you can't see how many bricks you laid and say, "Oh, I built that wall today." It all comes at the end,
Mm.
and so mentally you have to learn how to deal with that because sometimes you can feel like you're spinning your wheels. But when you finally get it done and you're successful at it, it's extremely rewarding.
I can imagine. Is there a case that stands out to you that has been, something that you can put as a feather in your hat and say, I'm really proud to have represented this case successfully?
Gotta be honest with you, there's a lot of them. I've probably handled 1,000 pieces of litigation, and to pick one of my favorites out of there would be difficult because I've practiced all kinds of things. I've tried patent infringement cases. I've tried antitrust cases, of course, catastrophic injury cases, consumer fraud cases, insurance bad faith cases. I mean, it just goes down the list of the cases that I've done. But I think I probably get the biggest reward of helping those that have been catastrophically injured, especially in the product defect cases where when roofs shouldn't collapse, and airbags should go on, and things of that nature that end up really changing the auto industry, and they make their cars safer now as a result of it. Um, those are probably, and being able to help someone that's in that injured position is probably the most rewarding.
That's remarkable. So, given the fact that you do support, therapy, hospitals, and healthcare centers like Casa Colina that focus on those that have suffered catastrophic injuries or are going through physical therapy to address, quadriplegia or paraplegia. I'm sure you've heard about Elon Musk's recently FDA approved Neuralink. Do you think that there's much promise in there? And what do you see in the technology's potential?
Well, it's one of the things that I do follow, given the fact that I'm involved in those types of injuries. And I think every advancement that we make and we do is going to give us some breakthrough at some point in the future. This link, as I understand it, allows someone that doesn't have control of either their voice or their hands to be able to send a signal in the brain that now can tell your mouse on your computer to move around, click here, do that, can actually think what you want to type onto a text or an email and will actually help do that. Um, I think the next stage is being able to then get the link between the brain and the extremities. That's the next evolution. But with the advent of AI, We can now do things research-wise 10, 100,000 times faster because we can run more probabilities as opposed to watching something grow in a petri dish. Now we can work it through. So I think there's going to be great strides in this field. I certainly hope so because it's really what these people go through is difficult, and how they adapt and do it and have such a positive attitude in life is just still remarkable to me every day to see. So I'm hoping that this is a real big breakthrough. Now, with that, I don't know if you want them reading your mind because that's the next thing, right?
Right, we don't want any hackers having access or any mind reading
No,
technology out there.
when that in-law that you really don't like comes over, you don't want it to show it on your computer.
Oh, yeah, we don't want that popping up, especially with everything that's interconnected. You're having dinner, you have your big screen TV, and it just your thought pops up during
Yep.
Thanksgiving dinner or Christmas. Yeah, we don't want that. So with that said, please share how it is that you do it all and make time to pursue, your business and your philanthropic efforts all together.
I think you just got to focus. There's so much extraneous stuff that's going on in our lives and in business and in practicing law and whatever that just doesn't matter. It's not that important. I think most people think that everything is important. That's what I notice in young lawyers that come out. They think everything's important. It's not. So you really need to focus and concentrate on what is important. And if you have the right people that are under you as well, um, understanding that it's okay to delegate and give up a little bit of that authority and have confidence that somebody's going to execute the plan for you. So I think that's one of my qualities in the sense that I always say I can do what five people could do in one day because I focus. I know what's relevant and I know what's not relevant. And let's just get that done and move on. And sometimes I always tell people, you don't want paralysis by analysis. I says, so sometimes the right decision is the wrong decision because you have to make a decision one way or another. Like you can't be on the battlefield and not make a decision.
That's right. You have to act and respond. And if it's the wrong decision, then you have more time to adapt and adjust and fix it, right? Make it the right
Right?
decision again.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So, with that said, what advice do you have for entrepreneurs or those looking to step into the entrepreneurial world?
I think it's a great place, and there's a lot of rewards to it. And back in the old days, it used to be location, 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 or the three primary things. But now with the internet and people working at home and things of that nature, that's not as important anymore for your product or service. But my biggest advice to people is know what your product and your service is, and really analyze and be fair with the analysis in regards to is my product or is my service capable and fit into the marketplace? Is there a place for it to succeed? Or is it oversaturated? Is mine not good enough? Don't give yourself false projections. Be realistic. And then the next thing is you have to be hands-on. You have to be willing and dedicated to not when you're first starting your business is to do almost everything yourself. Know your
Mhm.
business from top to bottom and be able to perform every function of it. So when you expand it and something's going wrong, you can fix it. And then lastly, you have to be dedicated. You really have to know you're going to work 60 to 80 hours a week to get started because 9 out of 10 small businesses fail within the first year. They just do. So it's a great place to be. It can be extremely rewarding, but you've got to have those three attributes if you really want to get successful.
I love it. So, please share your feedback and your input on what businesses can do to mitigate the common pitfalls of business ownership.
Yeah, one of the things is being hands-on. You need to be at your business every single day. I hate to say it, but people will justify stealing and things of that taking advantage
Mm.
of you. They do it. I mean, bartenders are stealing from restaurants all the time. Accountants are stealing from businesses all the time. They find out clever ways to do it. They justify it because they work some overtime or this, that, the next thing. Um, and so you have to be there all the time in the beginning because it does one other thing for you as well. you're seeing how the business is operating, and you can now see the deficiencies that are occurring in your business if you are there on a daily basis. Where you can't see that and make the right decisions if you're off premises in that kind of sense. So you need to be there all the time. If you're not, you're a recipe for disaster.
Right. I completely agree with that, especially when you talk about how if you like you said, if you have a business, you must be there, know every function that it takes to make that business run because as we know in business, if you have to be the minute man or the minute woman to jump in for extinguishing any fires or any issues that can arise in business because everything stops with you, right? And when it's your business, and you need all hands on deck. The last hands are your own, right?
Yep,
So,
absolutely.
please talk about what you're most excited about as you look into the future as a litigator, businessman, and philanthropist.
Well, right now I am enjoying coaching my 11-year-old's basketball team. I'm really enjoying that. But into the other world, I'm cutting back on law a little bit at this point, and I'm pursuing a career, hopefully, in politics. I'm running for Congress out here as a Democrat in the 31st district, which is that district that's just east of Los Angeles. Our current congresswoman has retired, so as Obama says, sometimes you don't pick the time picks you. And I think this community needs, I've been helping this community for years in my way, whether it be in law or banking and that. It's just another way to do that that I think that I have the skill set for. And so I'm looking forward to that. The election, of course, is in 2 weeks. If it doesn't pan out for me, then I'll keep helping this community the same way I've been doing all along. It won't stop for me. I'm not going to rest. I love helping people. I love seeing um, what occurs when you do. It's very rewarding to me. So one way or another, I'll still be working for this community.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for making the time to share your story with us today, Mr. Haff.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Beautiful. All right. So, for everybody listening, don't forget to look for us on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Check us out on scbrtalk.com. Okay, here are some community events you do not want to miss. The Fontana Chamber of Commerce Job Fair event will be held on Tuesday, February 27th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at 16730 Arrow Avenue in Fontana, inviting businesses looking to recruit and future employees. Register now at www.fontanachamber.org or call Wendy Gish at 909-822-4433 or email jobs@fontanachamber.org. Join San Antonio Regional Hospital for their 2024 cardiovascular community panel discussion moderated by Roger Duber, board certified cardiologist. Everything you have wanted to ask a cardiologist, taking place on Wednesday, February 28th from 6 to 7 p.m. at San Antonio Regional Hospital, located at 999 San Bernardino Road in Upland, California. Visit sarh.org for more information. Don't miss the Empire Strikers match against Kansas City Comets on Wednesday, February 28th with a kickoff at 7 p.m. Call 909-457-0252 or visit empirestrikers.com for more information and defend the empire. Don't miss my interview with Mayor Paul Leone, a native of Southern California. Paul is a graduate of Nordhoff High School in Ojai, California, the U.S. Army Security Agency Training Center and School at Fort Devens, Massachusetts, attended Cleveland Institute of Electronics and Next Dimensions Bible College, where he was awarded a doctorate in divinity. Next week, we will have Shannon Dykes, San Bernardino County Sheriff, who was elected as the 36th Sheriff Coroner and San Bernardino County on June 7th, 2022. San Bernardino County has over 2 million residents and is the nation's largest county, geographically spanning more than 20,056 miles. The department oversees the unincorporated county areas, operates the county jail systems, provides marshal services in the county courts, and contracts law enforcement services to 14 of the 24 incorporated cities within our county. The department consists of 2,007 sworn personnel, 2,073 professional employees, and 1,552 volunteers with an annual budget of over $800 million. You do not want to miss it. We will see you all next week. Alrighty, so that